Hello everyone, welcome to another Versus video. I am BBD joined by
CBM.
And we are going to be battling with some Pro Tour top 8 and not top 8, but did pretty well.
21 points or better.
21 points or better decks from the Pro Tour Concert gear that was last weekend. As for myself, I'm going to be hearkening back to some of my roots and playing a black, green, and white strategy. I am playing the Abzan Aggro deck that Mitchell Sigrist, also known as Mike Sigrist.
Longtime Magic player,
he is,
Mike Sigrist.
Yeah, he is a longtime Magic player. In fact, he has been playing the game for a really long time. It took him all those years to come up with this deck, which he piloted to a top 4 finish, and I'm going to be battling with it. So let's go ahead and look at the deck. So basically, this deck is similar to a lot of the junk lists, except it cuts,
the junk?
The Abzan list.
Oh, Abzan, okay. I didn't know what you're talking about for a second.
Yeah, sorry to confuse you guys. I don't know, just kind of a junk term, but yeah, similar to all the other Abzan lists in that it has like Thoughtseize and Downfall and things like that. But it cuts the Sylvan Caryatids, and it cuts some of the bigger cards, like, the Nissas, the Wingmate Rocks of the world, things like that, and instead focuses on a more aggressive curve. It has actually 8 2-drops, and the thing I like about all these 2-drops is they all attack through Courser and Sylvan Caryatid. Fleet's main line's big enough to attack through Courser by itself, or Caryatid by itself, and with help from cards like Abzan Charm or the Monstrous ability can also attack through Courser. Death Dealer can attack through both very easily, same with Heir of the Wilds thanks to Death Touch.
Yep.
So these cards are all really powerful 2-drops that can actually attack through a lot of the other creatures, and they play defense pretty well too. Death Dealer has Regenerate, Heir has Death Touch, things like that. They're good at playing both roles. And then 3-drop slot we have Anafenza and Herald of Torment, and Anafenza is just basically a lockstone smiter that can sometimes help pump your other guys, and Herald of Torment is either a mediocre 3/3 flyer for 3, or sometimes, throws your Death Dealer in the air to kill them, or throws your Heir in the air to kill. Does that work?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
and then it even triggers off itself.
It does, yeah. It even causes it to trigger Ferocious off of itself. Things are getting real crazy over there.
Now, I really like this combination of early game creatures for 2 reasons. So you have to imagine that going into this tournament, they're expecting the other Abzan decks to be very popular.
Yeah.
So since we're playing these creatures that are good against Courser and Caryatid, being all 10 of the 2-drops, and then even Anafenza and Herald of Torment are both very good against those cards too. It sets the deck up to try and punish those decks in the early game and then eke out the advantage in the mid to late game with like Sea Trinos and Sorns. But these cards are also very good against any of the control decks that might happen to pop up.
Yeah. Just
because the Sweeper costs 5 mana and isn't very reliable, and there isn't a card like Sphinx's Revelation to pull people ahead. So these cards are all just, they can do a lot of damage by themselves, and it's just too slow if they're just trying to 1-for-1 you, because there's really no way for them to catch back up if you just keep playing threats.
Yeah, and another thing too is all those blue-black control decks, a blue-black control deck is almost never going to beat a Monstrous Lion.
Nope.
They have Perilous Vault and that's it, or something.
Yep.
They're going to have some serious issues with a Monstrous Lion, or even a Death Dealer with Regeneration mana open. There's a lot of powerful threats there. And to top it off, we got the Rhinoceros himself, Siege Rhino. I like Siege Rhino more in this deck than in some other decks because you actually are using the 3 damage more. The 3 damage is a lot more relevant here. For some of the other decks, you care more about the 3 life you gain. But here, you definitely care about the 3 damage a lot because that's going to finish the game off with these guys, especially Herald of Torment. You can...
Yeah, just Rhino and To Bestowed Herald is 10 damage by itself. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage. And then Sorn as well, which can really help either serve as a resilient threat against decks that are going to have enough removal to kill all these guys, or provide a huge boost to these creatures. And I think Sorn is one of the best cards in the set, one of the best cards in the format. I would honestly, my first thought when I saw this deck was to ask Mike if he wanted to add a 4th Sorn to the deck. He said he did not, but I don't know. I just love Sorn so much that I could easily see playing 4.
Yeah.
And then we have a Miser's Ulcerate. some Thought-Seasoned Heroes Downfall, which are pretty explanatory there. Ulcerate's just a cheap removal spell, which I'm not sure I like it more than Bioblight, but I can see wanting to play like a 1-mana spell when you have all these other 2s to play.
Yeah, I feel like the three life you're going to lose is going to be a pretty big detriment, especially against a deck like Jeskai Winds, which is where you want the -3/-3 effect. But because we have all of these aggressive early drop creatures, they're going to have to be, you want to put them in a position to use the burn on your creatures as opposed to going straight to your face, which kind of makes up for the 3 life on the Ulcerate. The tempo that we gain from it's very huge. We can go like 2-mana guy, they play their 3-mana guy, and then we can go 2-mana guy, kill your 3-mana guy. At that point, we're pretty far ahead, and they can't afford to race with burn.
Yep. And then there's 3 Abzan Charm, which I think is one of the best. Like, this card's extremely fantastic, especially in a shell like this. The removal option's relevant. The card drawing option is going to be relevant if we're playing against a grindy deck that's going to kill a lot of our guys. We want to be able to draw into more threats. And then putting counters on is actually also extremely relevant in this deck when we have like evasive creatures, trample creatures. It can make your air big enough to trigger its own ferocious ability. There's just a lot of like sweet interactions here, and I think that this is probably like one of the best cards in the deck. Maybe should be even a 4 of. It's probably good enough for that.
Yeah, Abzan Charm is just very good. It's kind of funny how Abzan Charm and Jeskai Charm are just so good, and the other charms are just like there.
Yeah, they really
like
are.
Crackling Doom sits on top of Mardu Charm. Temur Charm is playable, but really isn't even comparable to Abzan and Jeskai Charm. Then you have Sultai Charm that just really doesn't do a whole lot right now.
It's like a Hero's Downfall-ish card.
Yeah, Abzan Charm is very good. And Ari's article this week, his Pro Tour winning tournament report article, he talks about how the charms are, they always do something at some point, but he felt like Abzan Charm always does, everything all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just there's not a lot of cards with that flexibility.
Yeah, like there's gonna be situations with Temur Charm where both players have no board, both players have a lot of mana. You're not gonna do anything with it.
Yeah.
But with Abzan Charm, you can always draw 2
cards.
Yeah. The mana base, I'm not sold on 4 fetches, 3 basics, and 2 Urborgs, but other than that, it looks fine to me. I like a high density of Pain lands. I'm not sure I like 9 coming to play tap lands, but it's understandable without a lot of turn 1 plays. You can go tap land into one of these guys on 2, into another one of these guys on 3, plus another tap land. Maybe not ideal, but I can understand wanting to have like better mana in that regard. Anyway, that's the main deck for the Abzan Aggro deck. Let's go ahead and look at the sideboard. All right, so we are back for the sideboard here. To start things off, we have an Ajani and 2 Wingmate Rocks, and these are going to come in when you just need more threats. Maybe some of the control decks, you want to bring in these kinds of cards where they're going to kill a bunch of your guys. Whip can also come in those matchups as well against like aggressive decks where going Rhino into Whip is going to pretty much lock the game up.
All those Monastery Swift Spears.
Yeah, they can attack into your Rhino all day long with the Whip in play. And then a couple of Despise is very good against like some of the green decks, along with like Silence the Believers, really to help out in those matchups where otherwise you might have some issues closing the game out. Herald of Torment also going to be like all-star in those kinds of matchups too.
Yeah.
A couple of Erase that's mainly for the Ascendancy combo deck. Maybe a couple of applications elsewhere, against like Red Eidolon or Courser if they have like Banishing Lights and things too. But for the most part, you want that against like the Ascendancy deck. And then we have 3 Bioblights and 3 Drowning Sorrows, which are going to come in against the super aggressive decks. Now, those aggressive decks really didn't have a big showing at the Pro Tour. Maybe these numbers can be trimmed some. Like based on what I saw at the Pro Tour, I think you want to cut down on like Drown and Bioblade a little bit, and you want to add more on this end of things and add more threats. Like they don't have to be Wingmate Rocks or Johnny's, but like there weren't that many aggressive decks, and there were a lot of control decks where the Ulcerate and maybe some of the downfalls and stuff, you want to side those out, and you want to actually have things to be able to bring in those matchups. So I could see wanting more threats in the board to be able to side in. Like Nissa, I think would be an excellent sideboard card.
Now, I would agree with that 100%, except there's one factor. Tom Ross won a state championship with an 18 land slide deck.
That's true.
So it's going to be there.
That's true.
So unfortunately, we have to be prepared for it because just when you think it's gone, Tom Ross is always going to bring it back.
I mean, even if you didn't think it was gone, Tom Ross is going to bring it back. So
Fair enough.
yeah. But anyway, this is the Abzan Aggro deck. Next up, I guess we're going to talk about CVM's Teamer Monsters deck.
Yeah, I've never played Plukernos before. We're going to learn something today.
We'll find out if it's good.